let's talk about Nintendo Switch 2. It's got some cool new accessibility features, and who better to speak to about all of this than the Saylor himself, Steve Saylor, the blind gamer on YouTube. He's back with us here on Double Tap. Good to have you back with us, Steve.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be back. It's it's great to be able to talk video games with you guys. So it's thank you so much.
Yeah, the worst people in the world to talk video games with, right? This must be the worst.
Non-gamers. So this
must
exactly
be a great chat for you. This must be great. Here we go.
You. I'm a gamer. I play Night Manager on the Echo Smart Speaker. That's my game.
I knew he's a hero, isn't he? He's such a hero.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Listen, of course, Nintendo Switch 2 news. I've been watching your videos following the announcement of the new Nintendo Switch 2 coming in June. Tell us what's coming up and why you are so excited.
Yeah, so this is the sequel to the original Nintendo Switch that came out in 2017. So it's been about 8 years since Nintendo put out a new console. And this is the first time that Nintendo decided not to really make anything wild and crazy for its next console compared into the past, because they really had a massive success with the Switch, and they were like, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they improved quite a bit of it. So we've got a larger screen. It's a much brighter screen. There's a better HD rumble. There is also better graphics performance. So it can be able to play games at a much better frame rate and a much higher sort of graphic performance. And also there was some interesting accessibility news that came out of that. Initially, when the Switch launched, it didn't have a lot of accessibility options within the operating system itself. Over the course of the 8 years, they were able to add in button remapping and also a zoom functionality within the system itself. But with the Switch 2, they've kind of not only improved on that and basically kind of added those features in as before, but including a text size option where you can be able to set for the standard size all the way up to a maximum size, whatever that sort of size point will be. I haven't taken a look at it just yet, but and then there's going to be, for the first time on a Nintendo console, a screen reader that is going to be built into the system. We don't know yet whether that will reach into the games themselves or if it's just being able to navigate the operating system of the console itself, but there's some interesting new stuff that I'm so glad that they were able to have. So they're finally essentially catching up to their counterparts on PlayStation and Xbox.
Yeah, but that's a good point to make, that the PlayStation and Xbox they already have a screen reader as part of their accessibility functionality, right?
Correct. Yes. I think PlayStation added at least the screen reader in PlayStation 4, so they kind of carried that over into the PS5, and I think they added a few new languages when that launched. And I think Xbox Series X was always kind of including their operating system already had a narrator and magnifier kind of built in. So that was it's because that's more based off of Windows, and the Windows already had that for quite a few years. So that was also something that they launched with their recent console back in 2020.
Absolutely. So these new features, I mean, the two that are standing out to me, as you mentioned, is the text size and the screen reader. The screen reader being massive news, actually. But I'm wondering, I mean, the original Nintendo Switch, the Switch 1, if we're going to call it that, you mentioned it has, over the 8 years, implemented those accessibility features. Do you think there's a chance that they could retrofit the Switch 1 with some of these, the screen reader and the text size? Do you think that'd happen?
It's possible. I can definitely see that happening. I think probably the only limitation I would see from a technical side would be whether or not the original Switch, can be able to handle the performance of a screen reader or maximum or sort of larger text size. It really just kind of comes down to hopefully it can be able to do that. I definitely don't see why it wouldn't, other than potentially it just couldn't be able to graphically perform it at a place where it's usable or it just doesn't break for users. So yeah, I can see that.
Could I ask you, how does this thing look? I'm trying to visualize what the Switch looks like. In my head, it's like a tablet with sort of controllers on either side of it that come apart or come off, so you can connect the tablet to the TV. Is that the device?
Sort of, yeah. So think of it as a larger phone, because more phones nowadays are about like roughly around 5 to 6 inch size screen.
Yeah.
So now with the Switch 2, we're looking at about a 7-inch screen, probably closer to more to an 8-inch screen. And they have the feature. Their main feature with the Switch was the Joy-Cons, which are the two controllers that attach to the sides of the Switch, and they both have basically thumbsticks with basically face buttons on each side. You can technically take them off and they turn into two controllers instead of just acting as the one for the Switch. So it kind of is like a souped up tablet with a gaming side of it. And the Switch 2, essentially, instead of it used to be where the Joy-Cons, you had to kind of slide to on the side to kind of lock them into place. That's where that snap kind of sound would come from. But this time for the Switch 2, it's magnetic. So they can actually be able to attach on the side without having to try to find that groove that's in there and that slider to be able to put it down. So, and then it has it's a pretty strong magnet, and you actually, in order to be able to separate the two Joy-Cons, you actually have to push a button on the back in order to be able to kind of release the magnet, and then you can be able to pull the Joy-Cons apart.
Very cool. Before we dig into what the accessibility features actually mean for gameplay, if anything, I want to quickly talk about the console itself. I mean, there is seemingly a shift to handheld gaming, right? We have the Steam Deck, also, there's rumors that the Xbox is going to be released in a handheld format anytime soon. So how do you find these? Are these better than the standard? I'm thinking of the old SNES, but there's a PlayStation or the standard Xbox.
Sega Game Gear, hello.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. PSP, okay. DS, yes.
Yeah. I will say, actually, Nintendo was kind of the progenitors of the handheld gaming. I mean, we're going back to the original Game Boy back in the late 80s, early 90s. And so they've kind of always had a handheld console along with their regular console, going from the Game Boy to the Game Boy Advance, and then the 3DS or the DS. And so the Switch was kind of like a natural evolution of what their handheld gaming was like. And actually, it's funny enough, when the original Switch was announced, there was a pretty famous trailer where they announced it, where you would see people on like this balcony kind of having a party, and they were just playing a little tiny console, like a little tablet. And that was the original Switch. And people were making fun of it, being like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Well, turns out it did, and it did extremely well. And I think that's what sort of prompted a lot of PC manufacturers to be like, hey, like the handheld gaming is a big deal. Let's try to make it our own. And so that's where the Steam Deck, the ROG Ally, that basically has Windows built into it, and a few other sort of handhelds that has Windows on it as well. And like you said, Xbox is working on a proper handheld with their Xbox operating system. PlayStation has a PlayStation Portal, which basically connects to your current PlayStation 5 and streams it to a handheld device. So the handheld gaming market is now starting to boom a lot, and the Switch is kind of just been a big part of that, and actually the kind of beginning of this kind of big push into handheld gaming.
Yeah, well, I mean, all the kids have got phones in their hands, right? I mean, at least it gives them a chance to put those phones down and pick something else up for a change.
Oh, yeah, there's a big difference. Right, okay, come on now, Stephen.
But no, here's the thing, too, is that Nintendo, whenever they design their games, they design it to be where anybody can pick up and play, regardless. And they kind of, that's where a lot of the kind of built-in accessibility of their games kind of really does come into effect. It's not fully accessible. I would say Nintendo doesn't always develop for accessibility in mind. They are starting to now, but initially they designed based on demographics, which is 8. So anyone that's like age 5 to 65 can pick up a Nintendo game and should be able to play it pretty much right away. And that is inherently accessible, not fully, but it's inherently accessible. And so to be able to see like games that or their console counterparts are just now clamoring to be on the Switch and the Switch 2. I think that's just going to open it up to a lot of players and just casual gamers as well.
Yeah, well, let's be honest. I mean, Shaun and I are. Sean's in his 70s and I'm in my 40s, and and we've been playing these games for a long time. You can't tell, can you? He's so youthful.
No,
so youthful. But we've been playing these games for so long. So when you think back, you think actually, you know what? We're talking 30, 35 years ago. We started maybe playing with some of these games, and it's starting to kind of for a lot of us, it's like retro, or it's a new lease of life on a name we've known for a long time. So, you're right. It's not just for kids.
No, definitely. And I think that's one of the beauties of this kind of industry is that it could have very easily just been it's a kids thing, and we'll just kind of stick to that and kind of move on. And, I think a lot of us sort of did. And like, as we started to get older in our teenage years and into our 20s, it's like, okay, yeah, video games was a kid thing. But over time, it started to kind of like bring people back just with the amount, like, the evolution and the updated graphics and capabilities and being able to tell amazing stories. Like we're a long way from just being able to move a little Pac-Man across a little board trying to be able to eat ghosts. Like now we're having stories that are not only amazing to be able to play, but are being turned into movies and award-winning TV shows like The Last of Us or Fallout. And they're like, that's how far video games have come. And it's just, and Nintendo is really, they've always kind of been steadfast of like, they want to make sure as many people as possible can be able to play their games. And that's a great philosophy to have. They've been slow at the upturn for accessibility, but we can definitely see signs that sort of tide is starting to turn.
Oh, we're seeing that throughout the game industry, though, and I think it's down to a lot of work, like people like you in our community, pushing that accessibility. You've been doing it for years, and I think we're starting to see, it pay off. I think it's really cool. But let's actually dig into that a little bit more, because I'm looking at these accessibility features. I'm thinking this is great that we're launching with these, but I'm still slightly, confused about where are these actually going to be usable? So are these just going to be usable going through the main, home screen menus and settings and things like that? And when I actually load up a game, is the zoom going to disappear, or the screen reader is not going to be functioning, or the invert colors is going to disappear? Do you know what I mean? How does that work?
Yeah. I would say probably the one that will still work even when you are playing a game is Zoom, because it is designed to kind of be sort of an overlay on top of whatever's on the screen. So that will always work. Whether or not the screen reader or say the invert colors, will that work within the game? I think it always still depends on the game themselves, whether they're going to have that natively in there. And unfortunately, with just the limitations of the original Switch hardware, that was difficult to do. I kind of case in point was there's an amazing Xbox game made by Obsidian Studios. They made a game called Pentiment, which is very story based. It's kind of set in the in sort of the Renaissance era of France, and it's very kind of like when you're sort of transcribing books. Like then it was basically people in monasteries and churches were transcribing the Bible, and kind of the printing press was so a lot of story based off of that. And there's a lot of like really like fancy fonts that are used in that. In the Xbox release of the game, there was a working screen reader that basically allowed it to read every single bit of text that was on screen. But I think due to the technical limitations when that was ported over to the original Switch, that screen reader was not functional, and that was kind of a disappointment for myself and other blind players. So I think with the capabilities that the Switch 2 has now, I think we will start to see more games being able to accommodate for that. I mean, we're still kind of in a space now where still like it is still hard to be able to get any game to be able to have a screen reader built in. It's getting better, but we're not at a point where every game that's being released will have it. But now that the Switch 2 can be able to handle a lot more power from its GPU and its CPU that has been upgraded, I can definitely see that in the future, we're going to have a lot more accessible games. And as Nintendo is starting to accommodate for more accessibility and have that natively built in, I think that'll just be a natural progression for their design philosophy. And hopefully we'll be able to see more, we'll be able to, let's just say this. I would love to be able to see a totally blind person be able to play something like a Mario or like a Legend of Zelda game in the future for sure.
Do you know what? Maybe this is me, maybe it is my age being 70. It's still very hard for me to sort of comprehend how someone with no vision, like myself, someone with just light perception, let's say, could play a game like Mario, and how many games like that would be accessible to me. I totally see the usefulness of these accessibility features. I was a low vision gamer for the longest time, and I enjoyed it so much, but there came a point where I couldn't do it anymore. So it's so important that features like zoom and whatever else, text size, are still there, because there's lots of visually impaired gamers that can take advantage of this. But I'm thinking something like, let's talk about Nintendo, because they're all about the games, right? The gameplay. The Mario Kart World is being launched with this as part of a bundle, or you can get it separate. And what's the other one? Donkey Kong Bonanza, and another huge game, right? What's their history been when it comes to accessibility in their games, even to any degree whatsoever with Nintendo?
It's spotty. I will say to that, and like I said, it's definitely based off of they have a design philosophy around their demographics. So they, like I said, they designed it based on age, so that anyone can be able to play it. Which is inherently sometimes accessible. Like for instance, say a majority of their games are there's not a lot of dialogue, but there's a lot of subtitle for every bit of dialogue that's in the game, which is great for deaf and hard of hearing players, but for blind players, that doesn't really help out as much as we would hope. So and also there is a part of this that unfortunately it is a little bit of Japanese culture where accessibility is not necessarily a big thing. It is in sort of the Western world. It is something that is still kind of considered just kind of like just push it to the side. We don't really talk about it. We don't really work around that. And so, but like as I've started to kind of see over the past few years, there have been quite a few sort of Japanese developers that are taking accessibility seriously. Like Capcom, for instance, is a great example. They've been consistently including accessibility as part of their games in different franchises, and they're getting better. They're not the best at it, but you could see the improvement over time. And with the Switch 2 being able to include and also have accessibility information on the launch day of when they're talking about the Switch 2 in their direct, having that as well as a game that has disabled representation with Drag and Drive, which is a game that basically is 3-on-3 wheelchair basketball. Whether or not that's actually going to be accessible, we'll have to see. I haven't yet to get my hands on it. But we are starting to see Nintendo start to change their philosophy around designing for accessibility, and hopefully that'll continue to grow so that we can be able to get games like Donkey Kong or Mario or Zelda and be able to have it fully playable by blind players as well as fully deaf and hard hearing and motor disabled players as well.
I think we're getting somewhere, and things are moving in a really positive way. You cannot deny the progress. And yes, people like myself cannot play these games. Shaun can't play these games. But I'm so glad that people like you and others who are low vision can. This is key. This is really important because it starts something. It continues a dialogue, and it shows that there's a market out here, which there is. And I, of course, hope that one day we can all start playing these games. But I think there's a reality. I tend to get a little bit real about this and think, you know what? If it was, and I go back to Grand Theft Auto every time, but how would I play that in that environment?
Go. Yeah, but we said the same thing when touchscreens came on the smartphone, right? How are we ever going to use a flat sheet of glass? That's never going to be accessible.
Well, it is up to the imaginations of those who create these things.
It is. It's not impossible.
No,
just because we can't think of it yet.
Yeah, and I think it is a slow progress. I mean, I will admit. I mean, we've definitely seen a lot, like a ramping up of the acceleration of that accessibility just within the past few years. I mean, I kind of look back as like at the time when the Switch was originally released, there wasn't a lot of talk about accessibility in games at that point. There was some within the industry, but not a heck of a lot. But it's only been within the past few years where it just really has ramped up. So yeah, I mean, I am disappointed still that there are definitely a lot of popular games that are not playable, like Grand Theft Auto. I mean, and we're looking at the launch of Grand Theft Auto 6, which it has been said it could be potentially the biggest launch in entertainment history, not just gaming history, but entertainment history. But whether or not it's going to be accessible, it's kind of a wait and see. But I am hopeful for the industry in that, because there are a lot of people that are understanding why accessibility is important, and it's just right now just figuring out how. You could see the progress being made. We're seeing studios that have never done any accessibility before, and within the past year or two have been releasing games for that have had accessibility built in for the very first time within their studio's history. So it's slow progress. I know it's probably like slower than what a lot of us would like, but I am hopeful that we will start to see a lot more accommodations and a lot more customizations can be made, and a lot more design choices can be made that's a lot more accessible.
But let's not underplay it. I think, it is absolutely true that there are a lot of blind players like me who would love to do this, but equally, I am so pleased there is progress. And sometimes you just got to stop and acknowledge the work that has been done. Because look, what we want to do, I think, and certainly in your role in this space in advocacy, I think is really want to highlight the good work that's done, because the people who are actually doing this, it's like when we talk about Apple and accessibility or Windows or whatever it might be. We talk about the product, we forget there are real human beings in there who are working their backsides off to make these things accessible, to do the job, to fight against endless updates, new interfaces, new products all the time. And they still deliver every single day. And I think you've just got to stop sometimes and say, well done, thank you. Because it's, there could always be more. We're always going to complain about something, about a product. We're always going to complain. I certainly absolutely will every single day. But the point is, huge work is being done, and it's important sometimes to stop and acknowledge it.
Exactly. And there's also a lot of initiatives that are being set, like even just recently at GDC, there was an initiative that where a lot of studios and companies came together to be able to launch a accessible games initiative where they're including accessibility tags on all, they're trying to be able to put them on all storefronts so that disabled players can know what game has which. And we're talking companies like Google, Microsoft, Nintendo, Ubisoft, EA. They all came together, and over the course of the past several years have grouped together to basically come up with these accessibility tags and work together to share that accessibility knowledge across all those companies. So and that's just announced within the past few weeks. So it's slow work, but we're all starting to kind of come together, and we're going to see a lot more companies really take accessibility seriously. And so I'm just hopeful that we'll get to a point where it'd be like, I can start nitpicking what blind accessibility games have instead of just saying, why doesn't it have some?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I've been following a lot of interest online about this, social media, following what people have been saying. And there's a lot of blind people, I think, online who have been talking about, I'm kind of interested now in maybe getting a Nintendo Switch 2. Possibly they can use it themselves, or family can use it, they can have fun with it. But there's also some who are saying, well, look, some of these games like you were talking about on the Xbox, on the PC, would be more accessible to stay with those platforms. What's your advice just now in regards to purchase decisions for a Nintendo Switch 2? Is it for blind people now? Could a blind person use it and enjoy it? Or do you think that this is more for low vision at this stage?
I think low vision for sure. With the screen reader, the text size, the invert colors, and also the larger screen, which that's something to be said too. Like being able to have hold the screen really close to your eyes is a big thing. And the fact I can be able to do that without having to sort of push my nose onto the TV, which is super annoying. Yeah. That is, I think low vision will definitely benefit from the new Switch 2. For anyone who is kind of closer to the completely blind side of the blindness spectrum, I would say it's kind of a wait and see. There is progress, and it's great to be able to see that potentially down the road we'll have some games that can be fully blind accessible. But for right now, I would probably say wait until we can until there's any confirmed games that are definitely going to be fully blind accessible, whether that's ports from Xbox or PlayStation or just from within Nintendo themselves.
Sorry, Shaun, you're sticking with Night Manager.
Okay, I'll keep going.
The weirdest game. Have you heard of this game, Steve? Do you ever play Night Manager?
Yeah. It's
do you play it, Steve?
I have not. No, I've heard basic gameplay of it, and so it's enjoyable. I get it. It's great.
There you go. A game's a game.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't get it. It's like I managed to put it off one night, turn up the next day, put the thing on, and suddenly I'd slaughtered 300 people. Made so much money. I didn't even do anything. How did that work? I have no idea.
You would have loved that, Stephen.
I'm very proud of myself.
Did you try out Skyrim on Alexa as well? No? Did you know that was available?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, I think they made it as a joke initially, so I don't know if it's still there now. But there was the regular joke of like Skyrim was just like which is Elder Scrolls, and it's kind of one of the most famous Bethesda games. But it was like so popular, like it was just getting ported everywhere that there was like a thing that actually like Alexa or Amazon did put it out for the Alexa. So I can't remember if it's there now, if it was like a smaller experience of it. But as far as
I think
it's yeah,
I got to search for it. On that note, talking about going a bit retro, I heard, and you mentioned EA earlier on, Electronic Arts. They've released Command and Conquer series open source. So I'm hoping that someone will pick that up and make that accessible, and I can go mining Tiberium or whatever it was called again. I used to love that game.
I used to love that game too, and I am so looking forward to seeing what can come out of that. Like, yeah, being open source definitely does open up for the modding community to make that even more accessible. So, yeah, I can't wait to see what comes from that.
Wow, Steve, I love having you on. YouTube channel. Tell us how people can find you, because YouTube's where I find you every couple of days.
Yeah, you'd be able to find me on YouTube, youtube.com/@Steve Saylor, and Saylor's Saylor. Every day I have a podcast called Gaming Insight Daily, where I talk about the latest gaming news and try to find an accessibility angle on that. And then that's where I put up also previews of games that are coming out. I'm fingers crossed, knock on wood, I'll be able to check out the Switch 2 soon before launch, so I can be able to have some previews of that. And then you can be able to check out my reviews of games as they come out on a regular basis.
Yeah, please do subscribe to that channel, because if you want to follow this and you're interested in this, you got to follow Steve, because there's no point following us on that one, I'll tell you. But we just want Steve on here to explain it to us, so we really appreciate your time, Steve. Thank you so much as always for coming on.
Not a problem. It's been my pleasure, and anytime you want to chat, I'm always up for it.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.